the single most important thing that any human being can do is to develop and cultivate a relationship with their heart and with God. All else is not only secondary, but perhaps even illusory. I know that I am not alone in having spent years and decades of my life prioritizing everything else except my heart and God. I've spent years telling myself, specifically, I need to save up XYZ amount of money, completely undefined, in order to have time and space and energy to do what I want, which is pray to God, connect with my heart, and fulfill my soul's calling, which is writing. I have told myself, I wish I could do this. But I have to do these other things instead in order to be allowed to do them. I have to work to make money, to pay my bills, to pay for my food. I have to go run errands. I have to scroll on my phone to distract myself from the pain that I impose on myself from not doing the things that I love and that I know I should be doing. In my adolescent and early adulthood, played video games, drank myself to death, quite literally probably, in some metaphorical sense. All of these habits and embodied stories created by my egoically deluded mind to avoid the single most important work that any human being can do, which is connect with my heart, connect with God. Ironically, what has been one of the greatest poisons in my life which is also turning into one of the greatest medicines, is to witness all of the ways in which I have disconnected from myself from my heart and felt that somatically in my heart. All of these years and years and years of neglect, of passivity, of consensual obedience to the systems of falsity which I hate, though hate is a strong word, which I disagree with, which I do not wish to conform to, which I wish to destroy and revolutionize, hypothetically speaking, for any overlords who might be hearing these words. all of the years that we spend disconnecting ourselves from our hearts, it's not like it just magically disappears. That it just goes away. That we can just find love and live in la la land happily ever after and get married and all will solve itself. These wounds and these unfelt pains fester. And they cultivate. And they build these root systems within our hearts. Might even begin to reach into our souls if we allow them. If our blindness reaches into our wills and begins consciously or unconsciously to weave consent with these unfelt pains, with the voids that come to insert themselves in those pains. One day or another, be it in life or death or life beyond, we must each confront that which we have cultivated within our heart. This is an ageless tale. It is the weighing of the scales. It is heaven and hell. It is samsara, nirvana. Whatever purgatorial realms whose names I forget exist between them or under them. But what happens when you cultivate an intentional relationship with your heart and with God? And your heart and God are innately and deeply connected, for God has breathed life into your heart, has breathed your soul into your heart. When you intentionally manipulate time by creating and making time in your life to connect with your heart, in whatever way that needs to take shape, and you make and create space to connect with your heart, now, when man has been created in God's image, we begin to touch upon his creative essence. He, our Creator, gave us the ability to create time and to create space to connect with our hearts, or to disconnect if we so choose. The point is to make time and space and create time and space to connect with your heart is not merely like, oh, I'm making time and space. You are using your creative essence, your creative will, which was gifted to you by the Creator of the universe, creation, ex nihilo, from nothing. Out of nothing, transcendental will comes in to create the time and space to dive into the heart where God's whispers will guide you to the healing which your heart needs. We did incarnate, it seems, into the Kali Yuga. This is not the Satya Yuga, sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and butterflies and beautiful, majestic, blue-eyed white dragons that are flying around and fluttering about in perfect harmony with our human and ancestral kin. And the interdimensional perception of absolute harmony where everything is seamless and felt. That Satya Yuga reality, that Garden of Eden, that blueprint of creation still exists innocently within our hearts. If we so choose, with our free will, to make and create and cultivate time and space to connect with that part of ourselves. And to pour love into it. And breath. Breath being that which God created the world out of. God breathed this world into being. In developing and cultivating this connection with our hearts and with our God by way of prayer and breath and will and willful alignment, creation of time and space, we allow ourselves to tune into the divine blueprint of love within our hearts, as well as everything which stands in the way: samsara, hell, pain, trauma, sin, ancestral misalignments, unintegrated shadow, all of this muck, all of these layers of unintegrated dust, all of these impositions which may or may not be external from interdimensional beings who do not have our best interests in mind. We, as children of God, have the power within ourselves and within our hearts and within our minds and within our souls and within our breath and within our cells and within our bodies to intentionally dive into those spaces wherein the perfect Edenic purity of our innocence, of our hearts, of our inner childlike nature, this little golden sphere of light, which is then clouded by a darkness, we touch upon that layer wherein they are touching. Wherein the constrictions actually touch the surface of our infinite light, which has convinced itself that it is finite and that it ought to repress itself. With our wills and with our intention and with our breaths and with our prayer and with the assistance of God, we are able to reach into our hearts, into the surface where the innocence and purity and infinite immortal love of our hearts touches upon the mortal confines of all of our misalignments and all of our pain, and invite love and light and God and breath and healing to come and melt away the darkness. Melt away all that is false. Melt away all that is rooted in ignorance and illusion. Melt away all that is rooted in strange, messy, interdimensional false mechanics of inversion. Perhaps imposed upon genetic tampering, if we're going to use a particular kind of language about it. Dive into those places within our hearts, within the hearts of our cells. Feel them. Witness, with prayerful support of God, with the intention to align our wills with God, with His universal love, with His universal truth, with His universal beneficence. To develop and cultivate that relationship with our hearts in order to activate, unfurl, and allow the infinite divinity, which is a birthright, to abound, to expand, to be reborn, and to shine, and to be. Christ is depicted as having a crown of thorns around his heart, as well as a divine fire of light emanating from that heart. We dive into our hearts to feel those thorns, which constrict themselves around our luminous, loving hearts, while simultaneously feeling the volcanic eruption of the eternal light within. And the more we cultivate that relationship, the more we cultivate that prayer, the more we develop a connection both with that light as well as with those thorns. We can begin to feel them more deeply, more fervently, more fluidly, and more willfully, and more intentionally. And to choose that which we wish to hold on to and allow to hold on to us and constrict us, and that which we wish to release. Let go and heal. And as we do this within the heart, with prayerful support from God, the heart itself is the center of our microcosmic body. That which we do within the heart, we do within the entire body. The blood will flow and pump through our hearts And any purification and resurrection which happens within our hearts will also happen within the body, within the microcosmos of the body. It will reach into the brain, it will reach into the stomach, it will reach into our sexual organs where our progeny exist. It will reach to God through the medium of our souls. Parenthetically, God will not be influenced by anything that we do. God is immutable, immutably perfect, eternally loving consciousness. Like, God simply is in that absolute infinite divine perfection. So anything we do that is good, He's already done. He is already at the supreme ascendancy of apotheosis in consciousness. But nevertheless, any work that we do within our heart will reach to God, let us say telepathically, through the telos and the pathos. Telos being inner design, pathos being emotion. I think tele and telos are different. Reach telepathically to God to send a signal. This microcosmos is attuning itself to your divine will. Come and be a part of this will more fervently, more fluidly, more seamlessly, in a way that is more aligned. The misalignments within this heart and within this microcosmic body is being cleared away. Let us make more space for God. God receives the signal from the heart to the soul to God, and then it comes from God to the soul to the heart for purification and luminosity to abound and emanate more deeply, more profoundly, in a way that is more liberated. Apparently, this is the metaphysics of what happens when you connect with your heart. When you simply, very colloquially, take a moment and just allow yourself, give yourself an hour to do absolutely nothing except feel your heart and pray to God. Maybe that's meditation. Maybe that's prayer. Maybe that's writing. Maybe it's painting. Maybe it's dancing. Maybe it's screaming at the top of your lung in a forest. Maybe it's taking a nap and going into the dream realms and cultivating a lucid dream practice. I don't really think that one, but maybe. The list goes on and on. The simplicity and the medicine is in the recognition that this subtle little action of taking an hour a day to connect with your heart and pray as you cultivate it and cultivate it and cultivate it, and perhaps you extend from 1 hour to 2 hours to your entire day. The innate miraculous essence of life, which is the breath of divinity, which has been breathed into each of our hearts by way of a birthright, by way of merely being created, not merely, by way of being created by God the Creator, then all of the internal and external illusions which keep you ensnared in the world, or which have convinced you that you are ensnared, that you have to do this in order to be connected to God in your heart, that you have to do that you have to pay these bills, that you have to go and do this thing at the store, that you have to take care of these material things. Sure, you might still have to do those things, some of them. But much as you root out illusions within your heart, so too will the mirror present itself in the world. And anything that is illusory within your world will also be rooted out. And your dependence upon the illusion and on the deceit will be melted. And then your progeny can inherit that. And like, we've had to incarnate into this realm where we inherit a bunch of bullshit to turn into compost of all of these ancestral pains. We have to do the alchemical work of transmuting that into gold. What happens when we offer gold to our children? More gold, less lead. I don't know what will happen. That's for them to decide. I didn't know all this was going to come through. The point is in making time and space, creating time and space to connect with your heart and God. The divinity of your presence, the innate purity and blissful condition of your presence will resurrect into your cornerstone. And the mundane responsibilities and the ripples of fallenness which our external world still is built upon, you might still have to navigate through them, and it's still going to be dense, and it's still probably going to suck. But you will be protected. And you will be rooted in such a light that not only gives you more joy and bliss and ecstasy and purpose and devotion in your walk through the valley of the shadow of death and the valleys of light and ascendancy, but as you shine from that cultivation of medicine within your being, and you emanate that light in the world, that light is going to accelerate the melting of all of the fucking bullshit. Of all of the systems of falsity, of all of the systems of deceit, of all of the concrete, of all of the plastic, of all of the petroleum, of all of the silicon, of all that is false and rooted in illusion, and offering reflective mirrors of how deeply we avoid our own hearts. All from the simple and single act of connecting daily with your heart and God. The single most important thing that you can do. That's it. And when I say you, I mean me. Well, when I speak to you, I am also speaking to me. I don't know if I believe in the I am you and you are me bullshit. But that's a whole other conversation. Maybe it's bullshit, maybe it's not. Connect with your heart. Love your heart. Heal your heart. Pray to God. Connect with God. Love God. That's it. All the other words, they're just in between. Connect with your heart. Love your heart. Connect with God. Love God. That's it. And then all will be well. Okay. Goodbye.